Good afternoon, my friends. Welcome to today's discussion and training on healing codependency, on reaching beyond it. It's a little later in the day today, mostly because I had a very late night. And then this morning, I had live mentoring hours with my students where we explored how to deal with resistance, deal with resentment, get back to our personal power. And we also held space for some of the loneliness and pain that is out there, and that's the big work we're dealing with here. So, if you're new to me, I am Marshall Burtcher, and welcome. I'm excited to be able to contribute to your world. I help codependents rediscover their well-being and happiness by healing the trauma bond so that they can go forward and create happy, healthy relationships and a life that they love and enjoy based on who they are. So before we get started with today's topic, today's training, I need to get this shared out to the community. The community is your safe haven here on the internet where you can find guidance, shelter, and support in your journey beyond codependency. The link is above on Facebook, below on YouTube. You just got to scroll past the description of today's class. I just need to share it. You can also Google it or Facebook search it, Thriving Beyond Codependency Community. Just apply, show up, you get support and guidance and shelter in your world. And getting that, finding out you're not crazy, finding out you're not alone. So that's what we do there. Okay, it's shared out. Let me know in the comments that you're here. Let me know how you're doing. Today is Get Clarity number 3, the 2 invisible relationship types that drive codependent relationships. Now, technically there's 2 types, and then there's a combination of these 2 types that drive codependent interactions. So I didn't think that would make a really attractive title, so I kind of have to adjust it there. But all right, so in the previous 2 discussions we've been having, we talked about the 3 types, or the 3 origins or 3 causes of codependency. Yesterday we talked about the fawn response, and today we're talking about these 2 types of relationships. Hey Rose, nice to see you. So there's these invisible relationship types going on in the background. We don't know we're doing it. They don't know they're doing it. And these 2 types of these 2 types of relating exist everywhere. They exist in business. They exist in interpersonal relationships. They exist within ourselves. They exist in, they're used in a lot of different places. First type is called the benefit-centered relationship. Okay, so benefit-centered relating is all about the idea of the benefit. What do I get out of this? What does this bring me? How does this benefit my world? Let's think about that for a moment. You go to the store, you buy a donut, you give them $1, you get a donut. That is a benefit-centered relationship. You went there to get the donut. You're like, you don't care, largely about either the donut's feelings or the cashier's feelings. You might, have positive, warm regard, like, yeah, I'm having a great day, blah, blah, blah. But you're not going there for a connection. You're not going there to get something out of it. You're going there to get the donut. You want the donut. You want the benefit of that relationship. This is how business relationships work. This is how employer relationships function. This is how utility relationships. It's not like I care about the feelings of the power company, right? I'm not emailing them like, hey, how you doing today? How's your day, power company? Power company's not emailing me like, hey, Marshall, I want to check in, see how you're doing, miss you. No. I pay dollars, they give me power. Utility, benefit-centered relationship. Second type of relationship is called connection-centered relationship. This is where we're going for the experience of being seen, valued, loved, to feel connected with someone else. Is to feel an experience, a communion with that person, place, or thing. Is to share an essence of ourselves with it, for that person, place, or thing to share an essence with us. It's about the connection. It's about the experience of it. A lot of times, when we get into relationships, these 2 are interacting with each other. One person's coming in for the benefit, the other person's coming in for the connection, and we miss each other completely. And this is largely what's going on behind narcissistic codependent dynamics. The codependent's looking for a connection. They want to feel an emotion. They want to feel like they belong, that they're valued by this person. And the narcissistic person's like, where's my cookie? I want my cookie. So they get in there and they get their cookie. Their cookie is the supply we give them. It's the attention. It's the praise. It's the anger. It's the fighting. It's anything that fills their sense of power, importance, and entitlement in their world. That's the cookie. See, emotionally unavailable people want cookies. Emotionally available people want connection. So when we get into interpersonal relationship, we're going for some sort of emotionally intimate relationship, whether it's a friendship or romance or familial relationship. We're looking at connection. But if someone's coming into it with the idea of, I'm going to get my benefit, I want my cookie out of this, this is where the friction comes in. This is where the drama occurs. This is where the abuse occurs. Because, you don't want to give them the cookie anymore. You got a boundary and you say no, and they're like, what? Really? I'm entitled to that boundary or that cookie. You give it to me now. Narcissistic abuse. The codependent's like, I want a connection. And to have that connection with you, I want to change you. Now we're moving into the control spectrum of abuse. It's like, I got this fantasy. If I'm the right person for them, if I become the ideal person, they'll love me. So that I can get this connection, which is, in a way, a cookie sometimes. We got to think about that because there's some transactionalism going there. This is running amok in our relationships all the time. And it's because we think that relationship is about benefit. A lot of times we're seeking that. We're not really seeking connection. Connection is this freedom of being with another human being. This is who they are. This is what they have to offer. This is their capacity. This is who I am. This is what I have to offer. This is my capacity. In healthy relationships, it's connection-centered. And we know it's connection-centered because they care about how we feel. They care about our well-being and our happiness. And we care about how they feel, their well-being and their happiness. We're not trying to get something from them. We're trying to mutually, consensually share with each other things that we desire with each other. That's the magic of it. It's consent-based. It's privilege-based. It's an honest and genuine interest in having this experience with that person. Whereas when it's in benefit-centered land, it's like, well, what's in it for me? This is where people become resentful. They're not getting what they want, especially if they're completely benefit-centered in their relating. This is why narcissistic or avoidant people love bomb. They're giving you all these breadcrumbs in order to get the cookie. They're trying to secure the source so they can get what they want out of it. They're not coming at this from emotional fidelity. And sometimes the codependent isn't either. Sometimes we're hoping to find ourselves through them, or find security, or find the fulfillment of our fantasy. They complete me. I'm finally lovable. That's a cookie. This is a transactional thing. We're not really coming towards connection. But I will say this: codependents tend to lean towards more connection than the transactional side of the relationship. We really want to feel like we matter to them. So if you're struggling in your relationship and you're wondering why you don't feel seen, you don't feel valued, you don't feel understood, try to see if there's a cookie involved. Watch what their behavior is, what their pattern is when they get what they want from you. Do they just withdraw? Suddenly there's no more attention, or there's criticism, or there's irritation. Cookie. That is a cookie action right there. Because in a connection-centered relationship, when the person has an ask and they ask that person for something they want, and then that person's like, yes, here you go, there's gratitude. There's warmth. There's a drawing closer. because connection's the point. Is this making sense? Let me know in the comments below if it's making sense. But this is what we're going for. And this is why we have the drama in our relationships. So a lot of times people don't realize it, but they're coming from a benefit-centered orientation in the relationship. And the other person's coming from a desire for connection. And they are not in any way compatible because they're antithetical to each other. You can't have connection through the benefit. And this is where codependents really trap themselves. They think that they can, if they give that person the benefit, they'll get a connection in return. This is why we are emptied and drained. This is why we feel used and invisible and hollowed out. It's because we keep giving and we're not receiving anything in return because they are taking the cookie. They're in it for the cookie. They have nothing to give. This is the peak experience of a connection-centered plus benefit-centered relationship is emptiness. It doesn't get any better than this because the fundamental it doesn't allow for it. It's not compatible with any kind of improvement. So I apply this to this adage of mine with the 8 relationship bare minimums. The 8 relationship bare minimums are 8 principles that must exist in the person before we go any farther in getting to know them. And discovering if they have these 8 relationship bare minimums operational in their life is done through a process or a practice called graduated discovery. If you want more info on that, the relationship strategy is your game right there, because that's what we deal with there. But this idea of 8 relationship bare minimums of boundary respect, reliability, accountability, privacy maintenance, integrity, acceptance, positive warm regard, and empathy. If these are not in function in that person and in the relationship, you're likely going to find out you're in a benefit-centered relationship. Because often, especially with toxic people, the benefit, since it's the point, is the action to get the benefit, to get the cookie, is to violate your boundaries, to not be reliable. I mean, why would I be reliable? If I'm in it for a benefit and I get my benefit, I'm out. There's no reliability in that. There's no accountability. So I got my cookie, leave me alone. Jeez. It's like you just want more. I got my cookie. Why do you keep wanting to, why do you want connection? Aren't you happy? I'm happy. You should be happy. I'm happy. This is how it translates. People that have the 8 relationship bare minimums in operation, they understand connection. They value the privilege of connection. They respect it. They can identify it. They can appreciate it. And they're going to work to protect that. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to want to keep the connection because maybe there's incompatibility or they're not interested. But they'll be honest about it, and they'll be honest about it in a kind way. This is the magic of connection-centered relating. It's when we start to value the well-being of another person. Now, as codependents, we tend to do that very well. But do we value our own well-being, or are we in a transactional relationship with ourselves? Because a lot of times internally we are. We're in a benefit-centered relationship with ourselves. If I can become better, I will let myself love myself. If I can be perfect, I will love myself. If I can be this, I'll let myself have that. That's benefit-centered relating. That is not connection-centered relating with ourselves. So I got some exploration there to do with ourselves. Am I willing to connect with myself despite where I'm at in my world right now? Am I willing to give myself connection and care just where I'm at, just as I'm at? Because love will do that. Care does that. Respect does that. Because again, connection-centered relating, the focus point is the well-being and happiness of that person. That includes you. So I got a comment. Joanne says, my God, this seems so difficult. I understand. And at the same time, I cannot hide that I also look for pleasure, fun, and company. And these seems to be a benefit too. Now, here's the trick. Connection-centered relationships have benefits, but they're not the point of the relationship. Benefit-centered relationships are only about the benefit. See, so connection-centered relationships come with benefits, since kind of like why we want to be in them. You know, it's like, ooh, I get to do these things and have these features in my life, but we're not doing the relationship with that person to get the benefit. We're doing the relationship with them because we care about them, and those benefits are part of it. So they're a secondary consideration. They're important because that's where your wants get fulfilled. So that's where satisfaction or happiness is fulfilled in the relationship. But the focus point is the emotional connection. It's through the emotional connection that benefits are experienced and shared. Because when we go back to benefit-centered relating, it's not like you give them a cookie and they break it in half and give you some of the cookie. That would be connection. No, they eat the cookie and then they're like, where's the other cookies? I want more cookies. Why don't you have more cookies? Give me more cookies now. It's one-sided. There's a thing I sometimes teach called the arrow of attention. And in benefit-centered relating, there's one arrow with one direction, and it's towards the other person. And that's where all the energy, all the work, all the value, all of it's going is towards them, because they're eating all the cookies. They're like, yum, 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 yum. They're like the Cookie Monster. If you've watched Sesame Street. In a benefit-centered relating, there's two arrows. One pointed at you from them and one from you towards them, and then there's an exchange. It's reciprocal. Oh, you gave me a cookie. Here's some pie. Because maybe they love cookies and you love pie. Here's some pie for you. Oh, I got a cookie. That's what we're going for. And a lot of times in these dynamics, especially in codependent narcissistic relationships, narcissist wants cookie, codependent wants connection. You're never going to get there. This is why you go crazy. This is why you keep trying. Because you think if you can get them to care about the connection, they'll become this other person. They'll become the person they were when you were seduced by them. That seduction is a facade. I call it the glowy thing. You know, in deep sea, they have those really ugly fish. And they have these little glowy things. So if I'm like a little fish in the sea, and I see the glowy thing, I'm like, wow, I'm going to go play with the glowy thing. That's really pretty. And then the big ugly fish goes chomp. That's what's going on there at the love bomb. Now, think about the term love bomb. Love bomb. What do bombs do? They blow up. Usually blow up into abuse and then discard. So when we're talking about these two invisible relationship types that are going on, we need to slow down and look at what's happening in the relationship to discern where we're coming from and where they're coming from. And if you feel like in the relationship, it's always about them, they get what they want, but you feel empty, you're not really considered, welcome to benefit-centered relating, because that's how it feels. But if you feel seen, valued, and loved, you feel regarded, you feel appreciated by the other person, and they feel that with you, that's connection-centered relating. This morning, my girlfriend sent me a thank you because we spent the evening together and chit-chatted on things and just hung out, and it was really lovely, and that's connection-centered relating. We're grateful for the impact we have on each other. This is what it's about. Healthy dynamics will have a clear understanding of whether this is benefit-centered or connection-centered relating. Now, this doesn't mean that benefit-centered relating is exactly like toxic or bad. It is toxic to interpersonal emotional relationships. It shouldn't exist in that. But it does exist in other areas that are healthy. Financial relationships are that way. My relationship with the utilities, my landlord, So it exists, and it's useful in its appropriate places. So, okay. Now, Joan also says it's like I would love to be able to not hurt, never, and never be hurted. Yeah, I get you. There's a thing about hurt. in relationships, because intimacy, intimacy is a product of conflict, and it's a product of how we repair impact in relationship, especially impact that hurts. And in connection-centered relationship, when an impact hurts someone, because we care about the well-being and happiness of the other person, we hone in on that. Oh, this impact did not align with my intention. I'm sorry. What can I do differently that would make it different next time? So hurt becomes a means to understanding each other better and creating more intimacy and more connection. But in a benefit-centered relationship, hurt is like, man, why are you annoying me with these feelings you have? I just want my cookie. Go away. It becomes an aggravation because it's antithetical to what they want. They just want the benefit. They don't want to deal with connection. So that's another good signal there that of what type of relationship you're dealing with. Okay? So today, my friends, take some time to look at how you're treating yourself. Is it coming from a benefit-centered relationship or connection-centered relationship? Look at how you're treating others and others are treating you, and see where this dynamic is. See what's going on there. Allow yourself to be honest with it, because most of us come from benefit-centered relating, and we have to nuance and grow into connection-centered relating. Okay? Yeah, you're very welcome, John. Very, very welcome. Allow yourself to explore that, because this is going to set you free in a lot of ways to say, you know, this relationship doesn't work for me because I'm in it for connection, they're in it for benefit. I can respect that and I can move on. Because it's not our job to change the other person. It's never the work in a relationship to change someone else. The work in the relationship is to acknowledge what they are, and then we can ask and we can see what they do, and maybe they change, and great. And if they don't, our job is to make decisions based on that align with our well-being and our happiness, and sometimes that means leaving. Well, sometimes you realize, I don't really need that thing, and I'm happy because we have all these other things going on, so I'm willing to stay. That's in healthy relationships. Toxic relationships, relationships that involve abuse, coercion, violation of boundary, identity, control of finances, body, friendships, verbal abuse, name-calling, criticism, cut-downs, shaming, chronic stonewalling, destabilization of power, control of finances, things like that, physical abuse. These are not relationships that need the consideration of repair. They need the consideration of your well-being first. And I generally advise, when it's safe to do so, look at leaving that dynamic. Because people who are abusive, regardless if they're narcissistic or they're, like I was, avoidant and had a fuck ton of trauma, to be blunt, regardless of their origin, the abuse is intolerable. The impact matters first. So make sure you take care of yourself and be safe with yourself, because they generally aren't going to change until they choose to, if they choose to. And your well-being shouldn't be hooked on somebody else's change. It needs to be attached to your well-being, to your power, so you can take care of yourself. So that's my bit on that. Go out there, explore if you're in a benefit-centered relating mode, connection-centered relating mode, how you're being treated. See if you can discern what's going on there. So once you can see it, then you can start making better choices for yourself going forward, which are going to get you out of the codependent loop of trying to change somebody else so that their change would validate your value and your worth. You feel safe. Instead, you can start going into the real journey of, how do I build connection with myself so that I can also build connection with others and build those connection-centered relationships that you absolutely deserve in your life. Okay? That is our training for today. Keep yourself safe out there. If you're ready to take this work on, we're starting the Heal Yourself strategy this February 22nd. The link's above on Facebook, below on YouTube for an enrollment. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And I will see you guys in our next discussion. Have a great day, guys.